ID in the D in the town all day. ID in the D in the SEA. ID in the D in the town all day. ID in the D in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 494 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And we're coming to you in separate locations. I'm in Seattle, Washington, home of the AL West champion Mariners.
And I'm coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the number one seeded first place Seattle Seahawks.
Still presumably number one in DVOA, had better DVOA than the Rams in that Thursday night game, despite the Rams 16
They had
lead.
better DVOA than the Rams in the game.
Correct.
This is what I was trying to tell you after the game is, look, they ran a lot of plays. DVOA is not the be-all, end-all, obviously. But really, the fact that they ran that many plays, the Rams had to work a little bit harder for it, weirdly, despite the fact that the Seahawks had to come back from so much.
I think that, as you talked about, they ended with the same yards per play at the end of the game. And then obviously the special teams advantage favors the Seahawks to the degree that the Rams fired their special teams coordinator in the wake of this game.
That felt a little bit like,
what?
Their special teams coordinator was like, don't tackle Rashid Shaheed.
I don't think that was the issue. I mean, the Seahawks mentioned that they had seen a weakness in the Rams punt coverage to the left side. And
don't talk about that. Just be like,
I think they were aware of it after Rashid Shaheed ran to his left all the way down the sideline and scored a touchdown. Someone alert out Michaels.
Why did the Rams out about it?
Why did the Rams ever get rid of John Fossil? John Fossil's so good at this.
Are you sure they got rid of John Fossil? Did they fire him?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he left for another job at some point of his own volition, but he seemed pretty happy and content there for a long period of time. And the Rams do not seem happy and content with their special teams coordination.
John Fossil is currently with the Tennessee Titans, who are 1-0 if you only count games played yesterday.
I thought their special teams were pretty solid against the Seahawks. I saw them on the other side. I was like, oh, that's not so shabby. We are not here to talk about Seahawks Rams because we released an entire podcast after the game. We call it an emergency pod. We also released our year in music. This is, without question, the most Peltoncast time of the year.
Oh, there we go.
We heard you like podcasts, so we made some podcasts for your podcast to listen to while you're listening to podcasts.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. To me, we've been, I don't have an official top 5 holiday songs, Christmas songs, whatever, but a lot of them are basically like just a really good sync. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and like 1998 bowl season.
I mean, I was thinking, in case we talked about it, I did not put together a top 5 either, but in case we talked about it, I was thinking about it. And really what I want is to be listening to Cube in the late 1990s during the week of Christmas.
That was pretty good. The modern Santa Baby.
Not a fan of the Santa Baby, as we've talked about. Don't need to sexualize Santa. Not into that. But the other two,
the new one is not quite as like the old one, Eartha Kitt. That is like all the way. But the rap version was just kind of a hit.
But Mariah, All I Want for Christmas Is You, and
Christmas at Hollis, is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's not a Mariah Carey song, so no, but Christmas at Hollis is definitely on my list as well. Well, there's the Darlene Love standard that I think I've listened to, and I prefer the Mariah Carey arrangement a little bit, although Darlene Love's voice is terrific, and that's no shade to her whatsoever. It's just not what I listened to on Cube in 1998. But I can't remember the name of that actual song. The Christmas, the snow's coming down. That one. I don't know what the actual name of it is though. Well, thanks for helping me out here. Great stuff.
It's called Christmas Baby Please Come Home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know there's a Mariah Carey version that's popular.
I'm pretty sure there is.
I guess there is.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Christmas songs.
I still won't get past the fact that you said the Darling Love Christmas album when you were literally referring to the second best Christmas album of all time.
No, I think what
I journaled about it after. I told
I
everybody how funny it was.
The version that I had seen is a Darling Love specific album called Christmas Baby Please Come Home. Now, obviously, it draws from the Phil Spector album, but also, do we need to give credit to Phil Spector?
I mean, credit where it's due. It's not like the album is bad because of Phil Spector being bad.
Okay. You know, I just really thought that OJ's work in The Naked Gun is what pushed it over the line. Don't even like to talk about Leslie Nielsen in that album, in that movie.
I'm leaving that there. But
okay. Well, should we get into the toast?
Sure.
Congratulations.
I thought we were going to talk more about Rams Seahawks. I got nothing else. That's all I have to talk about. Not right now, but just throughout this podcast.
Okay, you're going to sprinkle it into the roundup?
Yeah, just drop it in occasionally.
I'll be talking about the Kraken, and you'll just be like, and another thing about Matthew Stafford. And another thing about Sean McVay not going for it on fourth down as much as he should.
There was some other quarterback who I was thinking about that. Oh, it's John Mateer, right? I have gone out of my way to be like, literally everyone forgot. It is, people act like that was the explanation for like a big Game of Thrones thing. You don't know what I'm talking about. It was basically like she kind of forgot about this. And I was like, well, that happens because in real life, everyone forgot that John Mateer is actually bad. But
have you considered that he went to the same college as Cam Ward and then Cam Ward won the Heisman? Have you considered that fact?
That's a good point. See, I didn't factor that in.
Yeah,
that they had previously gone to the same college.
The thing is,
get another year of eligibility and get paid.
The thing is, Cam Ward and John Mateer, they're such similar players. I can barely tell them apart, but they did go to the same school.
And the thing that John Mateer did after playing a bad season and being a bad quarterback in 2024, I think he exceeded expectations in 2024 for what it's worth. Because when we previewed that game in week 2 or 3 or whatever, 2024, it was like Mateer, he wasn't a joke, but it was basically like this dude cannot pass it all.
Yes, I agree.
And then we watched him play, and all of the things that Mateer can do well, he did well, and all the things he is bad at, he was bad at in that game. And really, the Huskies blew it. I was actually thinking about before, to bring it back to Seahawks Rams, that 2-point conversion, the Eric Saubert 2-point conversion. And I was like, this is the exact moment that the Huskies had against Wazoo, basically. Like, they had this moment where there was one play, and to all credit to Clint, drew up something a little bit better than an option with Will Rogers at quarterback.
You know, you saw nothing wrong with it, clearly.
Yeah, another W for Jed. But I was thinking, here's why I was thinking of John Mateer, similar to Matthew Stafford, is, as I have consistently been, I think the only person on the face of the earth, because out there across, he was the number one player in the transfer portal.
I'm aware. I don't feel differently than you about John Mateer. I just don't care that much because I truly do not care about college football.
You're just so wrong to not care about college football.
It was such a thrilling weekend.
It was not that bad of a weekend. People are overrating how bad it was, but I was telling Luca, I was like, he was asking who I was cheering for in Texas A&M versus Miami, and I was like, I'm cheering for Miami because college football was the best in the early 90s.
Because you're still hoping for that hypothetical national championship between UW and Miami in 1991.
We know the outcome already. Come on.
Sports Illustrated wrote about it.
And that's definitive.
You know what I miss? The thing about now that we settle things on the field is you very rarely get alternate histories of games like the Mariners 1994 playoffs.
Notre Dame's probably writing one right now. I don't know if I have
a fair point. I think they better be busy writing a contract for Marcus Freeman.
I mean, I do think that Notre Dame probably would have been the best team to have played last weekend. But where was I going with this? Oh,
you're a little biased on a team that was the highest seed of the teams that played last weekend.
34 points to James Madison. Get the fuck out of here. Texas A&M is going to run all over them. It's actually just going to play good defense against them. But
Wait, is that the matchup?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the matchup.
I told you I don't care about college football. I've been very clear.
There may come a time. What I'm saying about this, though, is I've been so consistent about John Mateer is bad. And there might be a time that John Mateer is eventually good. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong right now. It just means that I will change my perspective if John Mateer is good. I will acknowledge it. Probably won't happen, but I'm willing to.
You said Texas A&M, didn't you?
Texas A&M was playing Miami.
Yeah, but that's what you just said. That's why I was confused.
Oh,
did you
no,
say Texas Tech?
I don't know.
Yes, that's why I was confused. I was like,
Okay.
Texas A&M is not in their part of the bracket and lost. Okay. I was like, am I misunderstanding something about the bracket? But yes, Texas Tech.
College football it is both the best right now, and it was also the best in the 1990s. It was basically like in the 90s, every single team had a coach that they'd had for like 100 years before then. They all are wearing their best jerseys of all time. You know that's true. Like it was like dinosaurs roamed the earth in the early 90s.
But the U was the exception to this because they regularly changed coaches.
I guess that is true.
Because they often went to the NFL.
The jerseys were amazing. There were superstar players. The Huskies had a great defensive lineman.
We had plenty of great defensive linemen in the 2010s as well. They all now play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's true.
All right, you know what is the best right now? Men's college soccer.
Hello.
And congrats to 5 of the national champion Huskies who were selected in last week's MLS Super Draft, including a pair of first rounders. Now, an important piece of information here. I learned a lot about MLS Super Draft eligibility. I'm still not 100% sure I'm locked in on it because, like many things with MLS, it's pretty nebulous. But as I understand it, number one, you do not declare for the MLS draft. You're just chosen. Anyone who's been in college at least 2 years is eligible. The teams retain your rights for up to 2 full years, or a little bit more than 2 full years, until the end of 2027 is the best I can tell. So you can't just go back to college. These players are not necessarily going to MLS just because they were drafted. One who presumably is midfielder Richie Amon, who is out of eligibility, was the highest drafted of these players, number 8 to DC United. Midfielder Zach Ramsey, the most outstanding offensive player of the NCAA tournament, was taken number 17 by Vancouver as a sophomore. In the second round, the Sounders took midfielder Joe Dale, a Roosevelt High School product, at number 51. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining. Redshirt freshman defender Asher Hestad went number 56 to Colorado, and then Vancouver took sophomore midfielder Connor Lofi, number 89. So the Whitecaps staying local with a couple of Huskies in the MLS Super Draft. Joe Dale was the highest Sounders draft pick since they did not have a natural first rounder. All right, and congrats also. We're still a week late on all of these because of the inexplicable timing of when the NFL awards hands out its weekly awards. But congrats to Jason Myers, who was named NFC Special Teams Player of the Week after his 6 field goals
after kicking 0 field goals.
Yes. His second time winning this season. Jason Myers did not have to work nearly as hard on Thursday night with not only 0 field goals, but
cheering
also
on for all those 2-point conversions.
3 2-point conversions. But he was ready just in case.
He was there pointing out that it was a backwards pass.
Had Harrison Mevis made his field goal, Jason Myers was ready to match it if needed.
I was actually happy. That's another thing about Rams Seahawks. There was a quote from Mike McDonald. Like the Rams were so pissy about it, right?
About the 2-point conversion being overturned.
Overturned. And it's basically just like literally the only thing you're mad at is that it took an extra minute or something.
What they're mad at is that they thought it wasn't going to count, and then it did count.
Yeah, they're like, we're sad. That's their argument. They're like, nah, that is really genuinely it. It's like when a flag comes in late, and you're like, but the flag wasn't right away. And that's really that kind of energy from the Rams. But what Mike McDonald said, and I was appreciative that he said this, was basically like, we probably would have come back and kicked a field goal. He was like, the tenor of the game would have changed had that not happened. And the Rams they latched onto this moment because it was like, we're being cheated. But ultimately, I still contend. I don't think it, like, statistically, I don't think it actually would have been better for the Seahawks to not have gotten that 2-point conversion. It obviously was best to have gotten it.
Yes, thanks for the analysis that scoring points is better than not having scoring
watching
points.
Football forever. Jan was like, "You've been more football games than I have," and I'm like, "Yes, that is correct, Jan. I have been to hundreds of more football games than you."
She declared that the third best game she had ever seen. She included Super Bowl 48 in there, was in her top 2. But she also somewhat randomly won tickets and attended the 2014 season NFC Championship game against the Packers. That was her number 1. And I forget, what was the actual order between your 2 NFC Championship games?
Oh, it has to be the Niners game.
Oh, I did want to talk about this. We're going to lay this out in more detail later, but I have been reading a review copy of Expensive Basketball from third Pelton brother, Shea Serrano. You'll recall his appearance to promote basketball and other things.
I really do not even recall that. What did we talk about?
The Sonics.
Okay.
His previous basketball book. But in addition to a chapter all about Sue Bird and taking down the Phoenix Mercury in the 2018 semifinals, there is a discussion in here of what's described as teams' Grail stories and ghost stories. So a Grail story is like the best play in franchise history. And the tip is unquestionably the Seahawks Grail story.
The Seahawks don't have statues, but if that is number 1 statue that goes up.
And the Seahawks don't have any ghost stories that I can think of whatsoever. He chose the move to Oklahoma City as the Sonics ghost story. I still feel like it's Dikembe Mutombo. I mean, I understand that
literally the team moved.
But that's not a ghost story. I'm not like haunted by Clay Bennett, but every time I see
Dikembe, I don't have hate in my heart for Dikembe Mutombo or the Denver Nuggets, and I still have hate in my heart for all of the individuals involved in this story, dead or alive.
Zero hate in my heart for the late Dikembe Mutombo, obviously, but every time they show that highlight, it hurts me in a specific way.
It's all in good fun. It's all in 90s good fun, where you just look back on it and you're just like, the 90s were great.
You weren't quite old enough to be as affected by it.
I do not agree with that at all.
I literally didn't play basketball that entire summer. I was so sad about the Sonics losing in the first round.
I would love if there was a thing, you have like the charts of like children being born in time periods, and you can see like how like cultural stuff or whatever, or like world news stuff affects things that happen in culture. If there was like a void of NBA basketball players from Seattle because of one summer after that.
Thankfully, I think we were okay. I don't know who was born.
I also would contend, I am sure that we played basketball summer of 1994.
Not as much as in summer of 1995 or summer of 1993. I guarantee it.
I think, there also is the baseball strike too, but
not until August. So we had a good long run.
Maybe this might
getting more into baseball.
Exactly. You might think that it's because of basketball.
I don't think I remember.
It might be a spurious correlation that you have. And the actual correlation was that we were, whether you want to admit it or not, more excited about the Mariners in 1994. Not than the Sonics, but
I don't not want to admit it. Like my stronger memory of, and I did not expect that there were going to be 2 O.J. Simpson references on today's podcast when we began recording, but my strongest memory of June 17th, 1994
always brings it back to O.J.
is watching the Royals game where Ken Griffey Jr. hit, what was that, his 20th home run of the year? I don't know what the number was, but it was a milestone home run rather than watching the NBA Finals because I was still upset the Sonics weren't there.
We probably would have been watching the Mariners anyway. I mean,
well, the game was played somewhat earlier, as I recall.
How many NBA? I remember watching Nick Anderson miss the free throws.
Oh yeah, I remember that whole series.
How many?
And then 93.
That was a big NBA Finals. That was maybe the most important NBA Finals of all time.
Yeah, any that Chicago was in was a big NBA Finals.
I don't have that many recollections of watching other NBA Finals games.
Well, that's why you don't cover the NBA for a living. I don't have as many memories of attending concerts.
Or college football games, apparently.
No, because the games all involve the University of Washington, and I care a ton about University of Washington football. I just don't care about the rest of it at all. All right, anything else on the Rams Seahawks game?
Wait, what was I saying? Oh, I was just happy that Mike McDonald didn't explicitly say that, but that he was basically like, the whole run of the game is different if we don't get that. It's not like it's just an instant loss or something. So,
Exactly.
And I was like, that's exact. There was tons of time left.
They would have been down by 2 points.
Oh, the point that I was initially making is, having watched hundreds of football games, thousands of football games, I just know we were winning on a field goal if we don't get that. Literally in the moment when they missed it, I was like, well, kick a field goal to win the game. Being down 2 is a great place to be in the NFL.
Well, it certainly is if the other team can't run the football, which the LA Rams could not down the stretch in that game. And that's the one thing I come back to is like, obviously we think about this a lot as Seahawks fans. I don't think the argument that like, well, the teams played close games and the Seahawks had a bunch of turnovers, so therefore the Seahawks should be favored the next time they play, that doesn't hold water to me. But if I'm trying to be the optimistic view of the Seahawks and also thinking about if I were the pessimistic Rams fan, if I were myself as a Rams fan, I would be number one, special teams would terrify me, obviously. And number two, like, the worst thing that could possibly happen is to have a lead in the fourth quarter of a game against the Seahawks, because we are not going to be able to do anything with the ball, which weirdly is also my feeling as the Seahawks fan. Like, having a lead might be the worst possible thing if there's a Rams-Seahawks playoff game. You do not want the lead in the fourth quarter.
I'm not certain if I'm buying that, but
they don't run the good offense when they're leading. Like, you can't argue that.
Either team.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Obviously, the odds of that are, not certain. Also, the Seahawks may still not end up winning the NFC West. You gotta get through San Francisco, and possibly need a win against Carolina on Sunday as well.
It feels like these two teams are going to fight each other again. That is what I'll say. This NFC playoffs,
if there's any justice,
it feels like these two teams are headed for a three-peat in the season. They're also just the two best teams. They're the two best teams in the NFL.
But it probably felt that way after Seahawks Niners in 2012, and then the Falcons just won the game. So, all right.
I don't know if that's exactly the same, but
it's hard to win 2 games on the road if you're the number 5 or number 6 team. The Niners did in fact do it.
Was really good though.
I
don't know if there's another NFC team.
I mean, were the Falcons team? I guess we looked at the DVOA. They were in fact really good.
They like 4th or something?
Yeah, they were. All right.
I mean, wasn't that Kyle Shanahan's Falcons team?
Kyle Shanahan was the OC under Dan Quinn, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was Kyle, but it was Kyle. No,
Dan Quinn wasn't the coach yet. Dan Quinn was coaching the Seahawks Seahawks in that game.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know when the timeline on when the Falcons changed coaches. I can't even remember what the name. Mike Smith? Yeah, it was Mike Smith was the coach, and then after losing, so they went 13-3 in 2012, and then they had 2 terrible years, went 4-12 and 6-10 the next 2 years. So that's maybe a little bit of why I'm not remembering that Falcons team, is because it was the second time in 3 years they had gone 13-3, and then weirdly went to the Super Bowl again 2 years after that stretch in Dan Quinn's second year as coach. So the Falcons weirdly up and down.
Atlanta Falcons offense.
Oh. Well, we have respected. I mean, it's Matt Ryan's Atlanta offense. That's the reality of it. This is a pro Matt Ryan podcast and always has been. All right, let's get into the roundup. Seattle Kraken made a trade last week, sending winger Mason Marchment to Columbus for 2nd and 4th round picks, having acquired him from Dallas for 3rd and 4th rounders last summer. He's on an expiring contract. The Kraken are very bad. This was a natural trade piece. I feel like the media take on this is like weirdly too negative, because when I first looked at it, I'm like, okay, well, they traded a 3rd and a 4th, but they're going to pick at the top of the round because they're bad. And maybe Columbus is going to have a late 2nd round pick and they won't actually be moving up that much. But that's not true at all. Columbus has the worst point total in the Eastern Conference, which why they are trading for a player in an expiring contract, I do not understand. But this seems like a huge W for the Kraken front office. So I grant that overall, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about the direction of the Kraken, but this trade itself was undoubtedly a solid B+.
Can I tell you, the Falcons 2012 draft was like the exact opposite of the Seahawks 2012 draft. I have never heard of a single one of these players that they drafted. They did have a first round pick, but let me read you 6 names. You tell me if you've heard of a single one of them. Very few of them were future Hall of Famers. Peter Cons.
There was like a defensive end, maybe?
Not even close. Lamar Holmes, Brady Ewing, Jonathan Massaquoi, Charles Mitchell, Travion Robertson.
Yeah, no, I got nothing. I mean, Peter Collins did have some approximate value, so he may have had
some approximate value. He played 4 years. He was a second round pick and he played 4 years. He blocked for Russell Wilson.
Oh, at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I was like, he continued playing for the Denver Broncos in the early 2020s. All right, back to the Kraken. They snapped a 4-game losing streak on Saturday at San Jose for their first regulation win since November 20th. They'll complete this road trip with an LA area back-to-back Monday and Tuesday before taking the next 4 days off for Christmas. And then they have their own home back-to-back Sunday and Monday against Philly and Vancouver. All right, a little Sounders update. Reports from Nico, in addition to the MLS Super Draft that we talked about earlier, reports from Nico Moreno of Sounder at Heart and Tom Bogert of The Athletic suggest that the Sounders are close to re-signing Paul Rothrock after a breakthrough in negotiations. If it were a day earlier, or a day later when we were recording this podcast, I would refer to it as a Festivus miracle. So hopefully they get that done. Sounders also added former UW defender Ryan Saylor, who had been with Inter Miami, had actually played more with their USL affiliate Inter Miami 2 this season than for the MLS Cup champions, but adds a little depth on the back line as someone who was a high draft pick several years ago as part of that 2021 UW team that made the title game. All right, UW basketball. It was a no good, terrible, horrible Friday night for the entire UW basketball program. Usually we split these up, but we're going to take them together here because the UW women played at Stanford and lost Friday at Maples Pavilion. I haven't checked the rankings, but assuredly knocked them out of it. The good news from that one, that 67-62 loss, is that El Ladine did have another strong game as one of 5 Huskies in double figures, scoring, shooting 5 of 6 from 3 with 6 boards. Well, Bryn McGahee had 11 off the bench, but it was a relatively quiet night for Savia Sellers with 13 points and 5 turnovers, and the Huskies were outscored 14-4 at the free throw line by a good Stanford team, but still someone, if the Huskies were like, a contender to get a top 4 seed and host the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, that's a game you kind of needed to win. Then, across town at Climate Pledge Arena, UW men's basketball against Seattle U. For the second consecutive year, the Huskies losing the Battle of Seattle in men's basketball. Wesley Yates III left in the first half with a hand injury, and the Huskies shot 1 of 15 on 3-pointers. They still led 40-31 early in the second half before the Red Hawks offense perked up. Kamari Peterson, a big factor in that poor shooting night, went 1 of 8 from the field, missed a 3 in the final minute that would have given the Huskies a lead, and Seattle U went 4 of 4 at the free throw line thereafter to seal the win. Was a good night for Desmond Claude, who had 24 points on 9 of 14 shooting and was the only reliable source of offense down the stretch. Hannes Steinbach had another double-double, and Zoom Diallo had 17 points and 5 steals, but no other Husky player, with Yates leaving early, scored more than 4 points. So you considered attending this game?
I did. I was down there for a show. We were like a few blocks away. And I'm so happy that I didn't.
Why do we even watch men's college basketball?
Just the offense at the end of the game was terrible. It's truly awful. And I know Kamari Peterson has had good games as a Husky, but the shot that he had that was wide open, to miss that, it's kind of just like they were 1 of 15 for 3. Of course they didn't win the game.
Meet the new dogs, same as the old dogs. I mean, this wasn't, again, a terrible loss. They actually didn't drop in KenPom almost at all.
But it was a terrible loss. It was great. Good news.
But, yeah.
If you're in the territory of, Seattle U is actually better than UW, so it's not a bad loss, that is not the kind of territory you want to be in. Even if you are of the headspace where you're like, this wasn't a bad loss, then the team isn't good enough and your expectations aren't high enough. They're playing like shit right now.
I mean, they're not, because they've had
this is a better than a 7-4 basketball team, and they're not playing like it.
I agree. And you can't blame this on Hannes Steinbach's injury. So, yeah.
This particular game.
Yeah.
They have to play basketball better. I'm not even necessarily sure if it's Danny Sprinkle's fault, but he's still the one who's assembling the team. Why can't they shoot? It also felt like some of the shot selection was pretty bad. And it also felt like they got
there
down
wasn't
court.
Much of an offense.
There's no offense at all. And it really is. There's teams. I don't know if I'm necessarily pro or against the idea of running offense in basketball. I'm not sure what the modern thinking around it is. But in moments when they needed buckets, it really felt like they got down there and they're like, what are we supposed to do now?
I mean, they're 268th in assist rate per field goal in the country. They're 320th in 3-point attempt rate. They're, they actually are, relative to the rest of the nation, shooting more accurately from 3-point range than 2-point range, which is an odd one.
What? How is that possible?
I mean, they're only shooting 50% on the season on twos. And now part of that is, I think, someone like Kamari Peterson, like part of the reason you need him to make threes is because he's a 6'1" guy. I mean, he is shooting 53 from two. The biggest culprit is Wesley Yates at 46% from two, which is not, I think, what you would have expected. And then Claude, after his slow start, 44% on twos, but he's really been picking it up lately.
I actually think coaching matters more now than it probably ever has in being able to get these players. And that's why you do see teams, right? Like, how is Baylor doing this year? Are they pretty good?
I have not stayed real close in on Baylor. They're 9-2. They're 30th in KenPom.
Yeah, that's with an all new team, right? And
Yep.
It feels like the coaching is actually what matters the most if the team is going to change over every year.
I mean, I would say that the also kind of the GMing part of it, the player personnel part of it. And so Cameron Carr was not like the highest profile transfer. He was not the John Mateer of the transfer portal last year, but he has emerged as a legit NBA player, 65% on twos, 42% on threes. Like, who knows what he wanted specifically, where he wanted to go, but like
partially
that's
just
the
about
kind
getting
of thing.
lucky also, though.
To a degree, but I do think there is a scouting component to look at this guy who had only played 18 games in 2 years at Tennessee and realize what he could do.
I mean, I think the Huskies, they did good by finding Hannes, obviously.
Without question.
And bring him to Seattle. But like beyond that, the rest of the roster just doesn't really make sense. They can't shoot. They don't work well together. There's no offense. There's nothing going on. And after this, it gets a lot harder.
I mean, the defense has been good. I think that Danny Sprinkle deserves credit for.
It did not look good down the stretch against Seattle U. They were scoring pretty much at will.
I mean, Seattle U, it was their lowest offensive efficiency this season by a wide margin. Not a wide margin, but their loss to Cal Poly is the only other game where they were anywhere close to this bad offensively. And obviously they haven't played a lot of anybody as good as UW is in KenPom, but Stanford, they much more comfortably. So I do not agree that the defense was the issue.
They were able to get buckets down, and maybe it's not the whole
shut
game.
Anybody out.
But they were able to get buckets relatively easily down the stretch. I mean, Seattle U looked like a better basketball team. The way that they distributed, like the extra passes that they made, you're just like, damn, that team. And at the same time, UW got the open shots. I just left that game being like, Kamari Peterson sucks. Like, I know that hasn't been the case across the board, but why was he even in the game at the end? But it's also the stupid fucking college basketball where Zoom Diallo fouls out. No guard should foul out. No players ever should foul out, but especially a guard should not be fouling out. You're just calling fouls wrong if that's the case. You said Wesley Yates got hurt also?
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, they should be good enough that even without Wesley Yates, they should be able to beat Seattle U.
Agreed. I mean, what I will say is one of the things I was thinking about a lot, leading up to the Jazz alternate nerdcast that we did on Saturday night with David Locke of the Jazz Magic game. That was quite thrilling. It's like there's like this school of thought out there. I searched for the phrase "make or miss league" recently because I was looking for a story I'd written about it to link in another story. And there's like all these people out there saying like make or miss league is dumb because any sport involving shooting is a make or miss thing. And it's like, actually, no. The reason that it's meaningful is because in college basketball, you can shoot 1 for 15 from three and still win the game because of the fact that you're so damn dominant talent wise in the other areas. And that's what you would like UW to be able to do, to be not shooting proof necessarily, but to be able to overcome a shooting game like that when you have the kind of size and athleticism advantages that they do at every position. And they aren't yet that good. And that's maybe the frustrating thing.
That they don't have the skill outside of shooting to just win these games.
Yeah, or we're just gonna like pound the free throw, pound the paint, get to the free throw line and overcome it that way. And there are teams in the country who are good enough. Like, John Calipari his offenses are like super regressive now, but just on sheer talent, they're able to overcome that a lot of the time. Not at the highest levels, but against the Seattle U's of the world, yes.
The way that you feel about college football is the way that I feel about college basketball, though. And I'm just like, it's not an entertaining product. Like, literally, what is...
I mean, I think part of it is you're watching, like, the least entertaining version of it.
No version of college basketball is that entertaining.
Oh, you know what actually
good thing that college basketball has done is having a tournament and having a sport that sometimes bad teams can beat good teams. That's it. That is literally it is all pointing towards, if it's not for...
You almost said...
What?
It's a make or miss sport.
But no, I agree that it's a make or miss sport. I'm not even denying that necessarily. But that doesn't make the sport necessarily more interesting. To me, I like watching all of the... I don't know if you are seeing the kind of like short form content that was happening about the Seahawks game.
Like in terms of people reacting to it? Or
No, the breakdowns of basically not reactions where it's like, oh, Seahawks are good. But like not Colin Cowherd, but the people breaking it down and being like what Ben Solak does, right? There's tons of them out there, so many of them. Like football is the kind of sport that you can scheme ways. This is your argument about Jed against Oregon, which like I still don't agree with, but it takes so many other things to be able to do the things that the Seahawks did, basically. Like you need to have basically the same amount of talent as them to be able to do the things that they did. But what you can do in a game where it's like all of this history that you have, that's all the tape that you have.
Oh, to like set up the 2-point conversion. You're talking about they scouted them and that's what set up the 2-point.
Yes. And on offense to be like, they're going to think we're going to do this. So we're going to do this. And this is like our plans 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, same as the AJ Barner touchdown, where I think wait to see that broken down. In basketball,
you do that in college basketball as well. It's just, again, UW does not have a history of that. You know who, like,
I don't
the most
think
interesting
you can
team
do
in the
that
country
in college basketball in the same way.
The most interesting team in the country right now is Michigan, a team that, had always is going to be competitive, of course, but had a pretty rough go under Juwan Howard after 2021. Where they went 23-5, 14-3 in Big Ten play. His last season, they went 8-24, 3-17 in Big Ten play. They hired Dusty May, who had taken Florida Atlantic to the Final Four. Last year, were good, very good, competitive in the Big Ten. Were a 5 seed, made it to the Sweet 16. But this year, in year 2, they are the best team in college basketball, excluding nobody. And it's like, they have talented players. Yaxel Lundenborg is probably going to be a first-round pick. They've got, a lot of experienced transfers. But, like, this is not a team that is winning based on sheer talent. I think Dusty May might be really good at this. And it's kind of interesting to have him on the same timetable as Danny Sprinkle in the same conference. Obviously, UW is not.
It's like Kurt Cignetti and Jed Fish. Like, you can't compare. And granted, Jed Fish is better than Danny Sprinkle. But,
I mean, you can. You certainly can. The Huskies could probably have hired Kirk Cignetti if they had wanted to. This is a little different. The Huskies could not have hired Dusty May if they wanted to.
Even Indiana would have told you this is not their expectations.
Sure.
That's kind of more what I mean. Like, first off, Kurt Cignetti has definitely gotten lucky in some capacity. And the luck is going to run out. Like, if you were to ask me the next 10 years, who's going to be more successful, Indiana or USC or something like that? I don't want to say Michigan because I kind of think they might be more successful than Michigan. Ohio State, obviously you would take that. But like the tier right after, I still probably take USC's next 10 years over Indiana's next 10 years.
I would say the floor for USC's next 10 years is much higher. But I think the ceiling might be lower because when was the last time USC was even like playoff good? I mean, maybe they were in Caleb Williams' sophomore season.
They'd lost one game that would have probably taken them there. I mean, remember the year that Kalen DeBoer only lost 2 games. They didn't play. Both us and Oregon didn't play in the Pac-12 championship game.
USC did. Yeah. I mean, they were very USC good that year. Yes. Yeah.
So that wasn't that long ago.
But that's kind of an outlier. USC is very good at hitting that exact spot of being like the 17th best team in the country. They're so good at being the 17th best team in the country.
They also have the number 1 recruiting class this year.
And they always have the number 1 recruiting class.
They don't. Okay, how about this? When you have the number 1 recruiting class, I don't think they always have the number 1 recruiting class.
They don't always have the number 1 recruiting class. I'm being facetious there.
Eventually, it's sort of like the Texas thing.
Eventually, here are the records: 9-3, 7-6, 8-5, 11-3, 4-8. 4-8 was an odd one. 5-1, 8-5, 5-7. I guess the floor is lower than I'm granting to. Some of these Clay Helton teams did not do super great, but 11-3, 10-3, 8-6, 9-4, 10-4, 7-6, 10-2. Like they're always right around that 10 win range, but they are never losing fewer than 2 games. They haven't lost fewer than 2 games since Pete Carroll was there. And let me tell you, fun fact, Lane, they haven't lost fewer than 2 games. And the only time their best record other than the 2020 season since Pete Carroll was Lane Kiffin going 10-2 in his second year. Was USC's actual mistake firing Lane Kiffin?
Hello.
It's a great take. Let me throw that out in an LA Times column.
He also is the most in-demand coach this year, so.
He is, yes. So anyways, UW basketball.
No, my point is, in basketball, like, I think you can have a system that works very well. I don't think Danny Sprinkle has that system, especially offensively.
It's year 2. We're not going to cast a final judgment.
How can you be so exactly diametrically opposite on this night? We had the Jed argument, and you're just so critical of Jed and these things.
I'm not that critical of Jed. I think that
you were extraordinarily critical of Jed.
I'm critical of
My
you.
My exact argument was it is early in the process. And in football, that actually matters. In basketball, it doesn't mean shit being in
basketball. You can turn over the
totally different
roster more quickly. But we have just a smaller. I mean, it's not even the end of year 2, I guess, is the real answer here.
Oh, so you're expecting, who are they going to beat? Have you seen the schedule?
I have seen the schedule. I didn't jump off the Jed Fish bandwagon. And again, I think that Jed Fish could be perfectly successful at UW. I don't think that UW is going to be bad next season. I just think there's a ceiling to where they are going to get with Jed Fish, and that the obsession with might Jed Fish leave? Oh no, is overwrought. That's what I'm reacting to, not Jed Fish. It's not like I'm like, hey, the Huskies should fire Jed Fish tomorrow. That's not my position. My position is he's fine, and most things in life are fine. And Danny Sprinkle too may be fine.
Devastating for the program if Jed Fish left right now.
Definitely do not agree with that. Maybe they'd actually return their leading rusher, their leading eligible rusher.
Okay, when do we talk about Husky football? We're talking about that later. God, I'm so angry at you.
All right, UW women's basketball.
Anyway, on the Danny Sprinkle Apologist podcast. Can't beat Seattle.
I'm not saying Danny Sprinkle is a better coach than
Ohio State, and you're like, whoa, not a bad loss against Seattle. Fucking you.
If I was sitting here on the podcast saying Danny Sprinkle is the best UW men's basketball coach we've seen in our lifetime, your response would be different.
Nobody is saying that. We've literally been through Chris Peterson and Kalen DeBoer.
Well, but the standard for UW football is different. I'm saying that if people were like, I am going to react to the tone that you take.
At number 18, that's how Illinois is a hard game for UW basketball to win. I would be like, you know what? I believe that is a hard game for UW to win. Not Seattle U at home with no one in the stands.
To win. I was just pointing out that it was surprised me that they did not move almost at all in Ken Pom.
Okay.
That Ken Pom did not react to it. Which also, the Huskies didn't move at all in FPI when they lost to Oregon. And
maybe you should have remembered that because you were the one who was upset about that game, not me.
Because sometimes I can see the process in a way that FBI can't.
Sometimes you can't see the process. You might think that you're able to, but you can't see the process.
The process is to juice your recruiting class numbers by running off all your returning players. But we'll get to that. That's what we're talking about right now.
What the hell are you talking about? You're just wrong about whatever your perspective is, whatever you're trying to get to, you're wrong. You think the recruiting class numbers are juiced and not
we'll
saving
get
money?
To it.
Jesus Christ.
You know, women's basketball managed to take out their frustration Sunday on Pacific in a 40-point win. They led by 15 after one quarter, never looked back. Savia Sellers had 14 points on 5 of 7 shooting, and freshman Sienna Harvey, who's been a little bit up and down, came off the bench to score 22 points in 17 minutes as Tina Langley got her reserves extended playing time. They held the Tigers to 2 free throws and saw them shoot 2 of 17 on threes. And now here we go with conference play for real on Monday. Next Monday, the Huskies host Northwestern as part of a Heck-Ed doubleheader. The Wildcats, it's an easy start to real conference play. The Wildcats are the lowest ranked Big Ten team in Bart Torvik's rankings at number 144. They've lost 6 in a row after a 6-0 start, including a home loss to lowly Loyola Chicago. Northwestern went 2-14 in Big Ten play last year. Competitive offensively, but number 258 in adjusted defense, including bottom 30 in the country in forcing turnovers. So this is when the Huskies should win easily. The men get to hopefully take out their frustration Monday night against San Diego in a game we previewed last week, not knowing exactly when we'd record this podcast. They then wrap up non-conference play as the conclusion of that doubleheader next Monday against former Pac-12 rival Utah, which has struggled under first-year head coach Alex Jensen, longtime NBA assistant coach who I believe was part of the Utes Final Four team under Rick Majerus. Utah lost at home to Cal Poly 1-3 against top 100 foes, with their lone win by 1 point over Ole Miss in the consolation game of one of the other Acrisure tournaments. So Utah can't even get an Acrisure title in their first year under a new head coach. Do have an efficient offense led by 21.5 points per game from guard Terrence Brown and 19.2 points per game from guard Don McHenry, but they struggle to protect the rim or control the defensive glass with no player taller than 6'9" and are dreadful at forcing turnovers. All right, UW football. New reported notifications of transfer.
Always has been UW football.
Running back Adam Muhammad.
Did we not talk about this last week?
No, because it happened after we recorded last week. Last week, it was all like reserves who don't expect to get playing time. And it's the guy who we thought was going to be the starting running back, who had back-to-back 100-yard games with the Jonah Coleman Limited. His 4.9 yards per carry matched Coleman's production on the season. We did tell you out last week. It was a little weird that he didn't play more in the LA
defended
Bowl.
You were like, it just run up. I was the only one who was like, this seems strange.
The only one out of 2?
But you were basically just like,
I was wrong.
Things were known. I also do wonder if things were known before the Oregon game. Obviously, because I think most everyone's number one takeaway was, why didn't Adam Muhammad run the ball more?
I don't know. He still got 14 carries in that game. It's not 2. And I mean, I think it's plausible the correlation is the other way around, that Adam Muhammad was pissed he didn't play more in the LA Bowl. Because if you knew you were going to transfer, this is not, Leroy Bryant, who wanted to go out there and put some good ball on tape for transfers. They know what they're getting in Adam Muhammad. He didn't need to play a couple of series in the LA Bowl to be a coveted player in the transfer portal.
Okay.
Also, wide receiver Raiden Vinesbride, who played a lot as a true freshman starting in the slot, ranked 5th on the team with 24 catches. Huskies did end up bringing in a big recruiting class at receiver, including flipping 2 players late. So that's kind of interesting context here. But you figured it was him and Desmond Roebuck, if Denzel Boston doesn't return, would be the primary receivers. And even if Denzel Boston does return, having not announced anything as yet, would still be a starting receiver. And then also center Zach Henning, who backed up Landon Hatchett, starting in his place for the final 4 games, doing a pretty credible job there, I would say, after some early snapping issues. Hatchett will be back for his senior season. This is a very logical chance to play more elsewhere, is his safety Vince Holmes, a 3rd-year sophomore who saw limited playing time as a reserve most frequently in the Oregon game when Huskies went with a lot of big nickel or dime packages.
So I guess first on RVB, I mean, I'm sad. I like Braden Vinesbride a lot, and it sucks to lose a young receiver. There's a lot of talent coming in. I mean, the thing that we forget about this season is Rashid Williams was just gone super early. We don't know for sure about Denzel Boston, I would assume that he's leaving, but Roebuck was more of the freshman receiver than RVB was. And if there's an opportunity out there where he's basically like, the things that all these players are weighing is, for the most part, like they should, especially after the injury that Rain Vines Bright suffered, he should be going to get paid as much money as he can right now.
Without question.
And if there is more money out there for him, every player is having these conversations and is probably fairly keenly aware of where that money is at UW versus somewhere else. If there's more money for Rain Vines Bright, go get that money, because that is also showing like teams are operating not within a salary cap, but they're operating within a budget. And if you were to ask me, did you know JP Lossman's a coach at UW?
I think we did talk about it at the time, but I have not thought about it at any point since.
I think I also forgot about Luke Del Rio. Those are a couple other ones. It was nice to see Jay Harbaugh getting some attention there on the broadcast this last week.
Was it?
Yeah.
I want to keep Jay Harbaugh.
I mean, we'll see. It's good to have good talent come through. I think the league is probably aware of Jay Harbaugh of all people. I don't think we're gonna slip that one by people.
Should Jay Harbaugh be the next Michigan coach? Many are asking.
But teams are operating within a budget of sorts in transfer. Yes. I do not think that they spent a bunch in freshman recruiting to offset. Is there a quote about this?
Yes. So one of the things that Jed Fish said when they introduced the recruiting class, when he was giving his press conference on signing day, early signing day, is that his philosophy on this is that it's sort of like NFL rookie contracts, where because of signing bonuses, you make a higher percentage of your take-home cash on your rookie deal in the NFL in year one than you do in years 2 through 4. And that was sort of his philosophy about the way to manage the NIL budget for UW as well. Well, that's a great way to attract recruits. It might not be as appealing as if you're Raiden Vinesbright and Adam Muhammad and you've now increased your value with your production on the field. Like, I mean, in the past, like the statement I made on this pod last week was like, this is what the transfer portal is. This is what free, relatively free transferring is players going to get more opportunity elsewhere, not, actually everyone is a free agent all the time. But Muhammad and Vines Bright, like these are guys you invested in, were right about. Seeing them walk out the door, that to me is a concerning thing.
You're so wrong. Good God, you couldn't be more wrong about this. Like, it drives me crazy that this is your perspective.
But what's the point of bringing your whole argument is, well, the reason college
the point is because we also have Desmond Roebuck.
I mean, sure, yes.
Who is staying?
Yes, I mean,
the choice was made between RVB and Desmond Roebuck. Probably Desmond Roebuck is there.
I mean, perhaps, but I think the choice was more between RVB and flipping the two wide receivers at the last minute. That's what I think the choice was.
But okay,
and one of those comes up on the rankings,
or is it one player? It's not the idea that Jed only cares about the rankings. Rain Vines Bright is important, but let me just tell you, if I were to be able to control where UW was spending their budget right now, first off, how could you not credit Jed for this perspective? Also, second off, because he's talking about getting as much value as possible in terms of players coming here. This is the entire shit you do, right?
But your whole argument about why high school recruiting is so important is because those players are with you for multiple years, and if you're not retaining some of the best of them for multiple years, that goes out the window.
First off, Adam Muhammad was here for multiple years. Second off, your idea, like Raiden Vines Bright, is not that important, nor is Adam Muhammad, which is my second point, which is if you tell me where to spend my budget, is it going to be on wide receivers and running backs, which are extraordinarily easy to find? I would much rather than be spending money on linemen and defensive players and keeping Damon fucking Williams also. But like, right, you could go find running backs anywhere. Like, I look at Adam Muhammad and I'm just like, look, Jaden Hott was one of the number one players that he used to be at Cal, transferred to Oklahoma, if you could keep up here. Jaden Hott, a very important player in the transfer portal last year, had 20 carries. Running backs do not matter. Like, it is not so untrue. If you were to ask me next year who has a better season, like this is without even transferring or without knowing about Adam Muhammad transferring, who is going to have a better season in 2025, Jordan Washington or Adam Muhammad, I'd be like, it's 50-50. Jordan Washington looks more explosive than Adam Muhammad. Was I expecting a lot of Adam Muhammad in 2026? Of course. But also,
right up until the moment he announced that he was planning to transfer, and then he got less good, significantly less good in your mind.
Jordan Washington is also really good, I guess is what I'm saying.
If Jordan Washington, I mean, he might be that good, but he doesn't line up with the way that those two players were used over the course of the season. I also think
because they're easy to find, and you should, if you're paying for a running back in the portal, you're doing it wrong.
Well, I mean, first off, they were paying for Jonah Coleman last year, so I don't know that this argument is.
Yeah, Jonah Coleman wasn't that important.
But I'm saying it's not like, I don't think this is their philosophy. I think this is, I don't think that part of it is like, we've made a philosophical decision not to spend on running backs.
That Adam Muhammad I think Adam Muhammad got word that he was going to go get a big deal. And again, he should go get a big deal, because the reality is UW was basically like, we want to spend this money elsewhere. Would I rather them go find another offensive lineman than Adam Muhammad? Of course I would.
I suppose that's fair.
You're not talking about all the talent that is coming back from these recruiting classes, because there are many players who are. It's 2 years of Adam Muhammad, but it's also about having found Jordan Washington and having found Damon Williams and having Rashid Williams and having Desmond Roebuck come back. Maybe both of the backup quarterbacks. We haven't heard anything about either of them. I'm a little shocked we haven't heard anything about Key McMillan or Dash Byerly.
Yeah, that probably won't happen until after spring practice, I would say. I don't know how they've changed the transfer window, if you can are still able to, but those players hasn't sorted out the backup spot yet for next season.
Enough.
So I'm not surprised by that.
Who they are also bringing back? John Mills. That's who they're bringing back. Like, all of these players are so much more important. Jacob Manu, Buda Alta, like.
Oh, I gotta agree. The linebackers are more important
than running backs.
No, not in college football.
Za'Darius Rainey-Saleh. Like, I'm sorry, but they are doing a good job. Oh, I would take a linebacker over almost any.
But you did not think a week ago that Adam Muhammad and Braden Vinesbright were going to leave, did you?
No, that doesn't mean players are going to transfer. You can't just keep it's a massive roster. And people are going to have interests. And you also know that you have
when has UW ever lost a starting running back to transferring?
UW
in a situation where there wasn't a coaching change. I mean, obviously there's not been a big sample of this era with free transfers.
I mean, they lost Jabbar Muhammad. They lost Kamari House.
That was a coaching. Both of those were coaching change. I mean, Kamari House followed his coach.
Sure. But like, UW has lost players that we didn't want to lose.
I mean, that is probably true. I just
think your entire argument is we've never lost players. I mean, you could look at Alabama's roster. Like, yes, there was a coaching change, but there's a lot of players on it.
Coaching change is a total wild card.
There were 2 coaching changes within like the last 5 years.
So I agree really that reduces the sample size.
Yada, yada, yada away those players.
But none of this happened a year ago either.
Who they lost? Wait, let me see who they lost.
Again, on offense, defensively, because of the fact that Steve Belichick went to another college, there was, Thaddeus Dixon, they wanted to keep, but it was not clearly as important to them as Takario Davis. Kamari House is a fair example, but again, he was following his defensive coordinator. I think that's a little different than Adam Muhammad. Everything, all the position coach who recruited him is still here. The head coach who recruited him is still here, and he has chosen to leave after he was the starting running back. I just don't understand how you just like look at all these scenes and rationalize every single one of them.
Mish Powell was a big one.
That was after the coaching change, wasn't it?
I mean, I don't know. Did Will Nixon do anything this year? I don't know about that, but just your argument that I'm not saying everything is perfect. Like, would I have rather have Adam Muhammad back? But you also need to accept, like, there are some of the best teams in the country who have lost players to the transfer portal. And it's not like there's a massive process problem. Again, if I had to choose where I was going to be losing players from, a running back would be the top of that list.
I would think that's actually their philosophy. I don't buy that.
I'm not saying it's whether it's their philosophy or not. Sometimes they lock into the right perspective. But like, one of their best.
I also don't, again, to be clear, I don't think that's as true as you think it is in college. I think Jaden Ott might have just had an injury and not been as good coming back from the injury, because he wasn't good his last year at Cal either. He was good as a sophomore at Cal. I do think running backs matter in college football.
I do not. The running backs are the easiest position to find. Running backs and wide receivers. Every team has talented running backs and wide receivers.
So you're saying that you can't. So then why have, I mean, I guess why invest anything? Just like get walk-ons if you can. Every team has talented players.
You need linemen. That is it.
I do not agree with this assessment. I agree that linemen are undervalued and difficult to replace via transfer.
I mean, I'm just like looking at this class from last year. Za'Darius Rainey-Saleh, right? Coming back as far as we know. Ryland Dillard-Allen coming back as far as we know. Dylan Robinson coming back as far as we know. Chris Lawson coming back as far as we know. So there's so much of the class. Like Ravensvine-Bright was a good player. He was an important player. He's a 3-star coming out of high school. It wasn't exactly like somebody who they're hoping to get lucky with those types of players. But
you're not getting lucky if you don't retain the player. Then
they got lucky on Desmond Roebuck. You probably you're gonna need to make some decisions in modern.
I don't disagree with that. I just think, again, the decision was not between Desmond Roebuck and Ravensvine-Bright. It was between Ravensvine-Bright and incoming freshmen.
And incoming freshmen?
I think,
and if one of those incoming freshmen is even better than Ravensvine-Bright was
then
good.
I think that's a tough way to build a program.
You're overrating.
Because part of Jed Fish's argument that he's advancing in favor of his tenure at UW, he's constantly talking about, look at how young our team is. And the reason you make that argument is because those young players will get older and improve. But if they get older and improve somewhere else, then them being young is not
upset about losing Adam Muhammad and Ravensvine-Bright.
I just don't understand how you
all
just
of
look
the
at
other
this
players.
Never see anything wrong. Everything is through such rose-colored glasses.
I don't see anything wrong, but we don't know what the offseason is going to look like yet. Their 4th highest rated player who came in was a running back. Are you telling me that you don't think that he could match the production from Adam Muhammad?
I mean, is he rated that much higher than Adam Muhammad as a freshman? And again, Adam Muhammad as a junior is a better player, presumably, than Adam Muhammad as a freshman, because we saw him get better from year 1 to year 2. He wasn't that good as a freshman.
He's the national 121st ranked player. Do you think Adam Muhammad was higher than that?
No, I don't think he's higher than that. I think the difference isn't enough to offset the experience. I would rather have the 500th ranked recruit as a junior given average development than the 121st ranked recruit as a freshman.
So, yeah, I mean, Adam Muhammad came in as I'm not sure what it was, but he definitely wasn't that high coming out.
I agree that he was not that high, but I just don't think it was like night and day different. He wasn't like a 2-star.
Everything is perfect, but I didn't see like Adam. No team can retain every player. Oregon isn't retaining every player. Do you think Oregon wants to lose these players? Do you think they're like, please go?
I don't.
Your expectation is just wrong for it. If your expectation is UW will never lose any players that we care about, then
I wouldn't say that that's my expectation.
Who are you more bothered by, Adam Muhammad or Ravensvine-Bright?
Adam Muhammad.
I mean,
again, he was one of the most exciting players on the roster 2 weeks ago.
Fair enough, I guess. I don't know.
You viewed him as a building block of this team.
No, I agree that I viewed him as I also viewed Jonah Coleman as a building block. Jonah Coleman just wasn't that good.
But that's a different point. And also, Jonah Coleman did have a very good. I mean, he scored 16 touchdowns. A lot of what you're reacting to with Jonah Coleman is after he got hurt.
Running back touchdowns.
That's not necessarily that important. But Jonah Coleman was not the reason that most of the games that we were frustrated about UW losing, Jonah Coleman either didn't play or was badly limited in. So Jonah Coleman was not the problem.
All right, we gotta go. About where the defense is. I'm excited about Demond and the receivers and the offensive line. Have I really talked that much about skill position players? We're talking about recruiting. Who am I talking about? It's always the offensive. Cody Green is who I'm excited about more than Adam Muhammad. Anybody could, if you have a good enough line, anybody could run through it.
Not quite as true in college. It's very true in the NFL. It's not quite as true as college. There are meaningful differences between running backs. All right, let's talk about the Seahawks, who, coming off that win against the Rams, now head into a somewhat tricky game at Carolina on Sunday. They will do so without edge Derek Hall, whose one-game suspension was upheld by the NFL. This was kind of perplexing based on the video that that a Seahawks fan had posted of kind of the reverse angle, where it looked like Derek Hall did not, in fact, step on the Rams offensive lineman at all, just merely stepped over him. The NFL may have some additional angles. They may have audio, things like that to support their suspension. But in a world where they don't release those things in the name of transparency, all we can judge it by is what we have publicly. And that did not seem to support a suspension. I'm not even sure it supported a fine, frankly. So perplexing. The Panthers moved into first place with Sunday's win over Tampa Bay at home. They have already surpassed their most wins since 2017. Underlying metrics not as strong. They have a minus 50 point differential in a division where
50?
in a division where all four teams have negative point differentials. And I don't know if this is still true, but I saw that at one point, according to DVOA, the only above average unit in the entire division. Do you know what it was?
The only above average unit is it the Falcons defense?
Nope.
Okay. The Saints something.
The Saints offense.
The Saints offense. Oh,
we were excited about.
I'm really pretty hyped on Tyler Shough right now.
Imagine saying that a year ago, going into the Sun Bowl where he didn't play.
I was into Tyler Shough.
Easy left the Panthers have alternated wins and losses since week 7, so they're due for a loss. If Tampa Bay wins Sunday at Miami against Quinn Ewers, the result of this game does not actually matter at all to the Panthers, as the NFC South would come down to Carolina at Tampa Bay in week 18. But those games are simultaneous, and Carolina could clinch the division title this weekend if the Buccaneers lose and they manage to win. Bryce Young is completing a career high 63% of his passes. His yards per attempt have ticked up slightly, but still not good at about 6.5 yards per attempt. Has cut sack rate considerably, but not as big a factor as a runner. He is up to 20th in EPA plus CPA composite from 26 last season. So it's not quite the breakout season that I think I kind of anticipated it was before I looked at the numbers. Particularly, there was a stat yesterday, I think, from my ESPN colleague who covers the Panthers, that Bryce Young actually has the most game-winning drives in the NFL in the last 3 seasons.
He's the new Russell Wilson in every way.
And it accounts for almost all of his wins as starting
Every win has been a game-winning drive.
What if they made the whole plane out of it? What he does have is first-round pick Tetsuo McMillan, who is already his favorite target, the one-time Jedd Fisch recruit, with more than double the yards of any other Panthers receiver. His production is fairly comparable to JSN last season, when he was also age 22. But the shape of the production is a little different. McMillan's catch percentage is somewhat lower than JSN's was in year 2, but averaging 14.4 yards per reception, more like what we've seen from JSN this season with all the big plays. So this is a building block for the Panthers. They got this one correct. And maybe for the NFC South in general, this year's receiving class. Xavier Legette is the only other receiver with more than 45 targets this season, while McMillan is in triple digits, but those have yielded fewer than 6 yards per target. Not someone you really need to worry about. Jalen Coker has earned a bigger role lately with at least 47 yards for the last 5 weeks and has the best catch percentage and yards per target among their rotation wide receivers. The Panthers do not really use the tight ends as a regular part of their passing game. They have offensively similar EPA per play on both rushes and passes, but because of the fact that the league-wide standard is much higher, they are relatively way better, 11th on a per-play basis on the ground. Rico Dowdle went over 1,000 yards on Sunday despite a quiet game. He hasn't run for 60 yards since November 2nd, which is pretty wild. Like, most of his production was early on, and it's been a down season for Chuba Hubbard, who had nearly 1,200 yards last year. I do think a team that really wants to run the ball against the Seahawks defense is a very favorable matchup.
Yeah, good luck.
The
Rico Dowdle season has been pretty interesting because it was basically like, it wasn't necessarily that his production was happening at the beginning of the season. It's that his production happened over 2 weeks where they ran, he had 200 plus yards against the Dolphins, 183 the next week against the Cowboys, and then 130 against the Packers. And that's the only times he's been over 100. But the weeks leading up to that, it was 12, 9, 30, 32, and then the 206. So you'd be forgiven if you didn't start him in fantasy against the Dolphins in October 5th.
The other favorable matchup here for the Seahawks is going to be when they have the ball. The Panthers are last in defensive EPA per play and no higher than 31st against either the run or the pass. They are actually better in DVOA on defense than offense. That's opponent adjustment, and their opponents adjusted, and their opponents before Sunday were slightly better than average on offense, including 5 of the top 10 teams. Now they'll play 6 of that group after the Seahawks, and much worse on defense. They have given up some monster rushing days, including 169-yard Sunday for Tampa Bay, which got 49 of those from Baker Mayfield on the ground. Their 7.3 yards per allowed per pass isn't so terrible, but they're bottom 10 in sack rate, and Derek Brown leads the team with 5 sacks. So
just kind of a strange team. They've also played, when you talk about that being adjusted, outside of being in the worst division, or maybe the worst division, a really hard schedule.
Yeah.
Across the board, it's like Jaguars, Patriots, Cowboys. It's the worst
division. None of these teams are above average in DVOA.
Packers, and then all of the NFC West. I mean, they've played almost all of the good teams across the NFL. The Falcons or the Panthers to have gotten to the place of 8-7 is still pretty impressive overall.
Yeah. Our old friend Dave Canales, there is coach in his second season. So doing some good things, certainly. It would be a surprise if those good things included beating the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, just figuring out how to win games. So many people are going to talk about how this is a trap game for the Seahawks.
Oh, they love a trap game.
Right after Christmas, they had the big win a couple of days ago. Having the 10 days rest going into it, and just my faith in Mike McDonald and the Seahawks coaching staff, and really what they're pointing toward, makes me think this is not going to be a close game at all.
Yeah, I mean, every game is really important at this time of the year. Every game is a championship opportunity. I would say I don't feel like the Seahawks have had they've had individual games where they haven't been as dominant as expected, but do I actually think that
even those individual games where they weren't as dominant as expected, they weren't as dominant statistically as expected. It was more points wise. Maybe they didn't score, like Tennessee, right?
Right. Or the Colts. I mean, turnovers certainly could cost them and could be a way that Carolina wins this game, but I don't think it's going to be because of the fact that the Seahawks take the Panthers lightly, especially coming off that win against Tampa Bay. In a situation where they are a potential playoff opponent in round 2.
They've also kind of,
or I guess round 1,
taken teams like this who are even better, right? You look at that Jaguars win that they had, which, not a hyped game at all at the time. And now the Jaguars could be the number 1 seed in the AFC. And the Seahawks just kind of casually beat them. Same with the Texans win that they had.
Yep.
I do think this is one that the Panthers are feeling great about themselves, and there is a wrecking ball coming to town, both offenses, defensively, and special teams. The Seahawks are better in every capacity of the game, so they could play a game that's not their best game and still win pretty comfortably. So I'm not particularly concerned about this one. What do you think about Riley Mills, by the way? Were people talking about that on the broadcast?
What about it?
Just that he was getting playing time on Thursday in that Rams game.
They were not talking about that at the broadcast. I did not realize I guess I had missed that he'd been activated even. So.
Oh yeah, no, Riley Mills. I think the Seahawks might have found something here. To be able to get onto the field in this situation is credit enough on its own. But he was playing quite a bit, especially early in that game.
Yeah, I think the talent was evident, and that he was more talented than where they got him. I guess was he active against? He was active against Indianapolis as well. So that one went past me.
Did they also talk in the broadcast about some of the defensive formations, especially on the line?
Not a lot.
There was I want to say this was on a big third down play.
I mean, he had 6 snaps on Thursday. It's not a lot.
But there was a play where Leonard Williams, and like when you're playing football video games, sometimes you take your end and you just move them way outside and have them rush from like crazy outside. They had a play,
a wide 9,
and where they had Leonard Williams just like a mile away from the play on Thursday. And I was like, Mike he's thinking about stuff on the fly right now. Like Mike is trying shit.
I doubt he's thinking about it on the fly.
Or it was something that at least they talked about where he was like, this is a thing that I want to, like, maybe there might be a time that this makes sense. But it was the first time that I'd basically ever seen that, where they had Leonard Williams pass rush from. So I don't know. It was pretty exciting, where it was like they made Mike definitely work in that game. He dipped into the bag of tricks, but the Panthers not one that I am particularly concerned about for the Seahawks as they finish up the season. Everything definitely pointing toward San Francisco the following week, especially depending on what happened with the Niners today against the Colts.
Yes, we will find out tonight, and also learn a lot more about the Colts and Phillip Rivers, I suppose. I'm curious to see that one. All right. Well, on that note, we want to wish everyone a happy holidays, a happy Festivus coming up on Tuesday, and a Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate. And we will be back next week with our weekly pod, and also at some point in there, the year in review.
Hello. I can't wait.
It's the most Peltoncast time of the year. On that note,
thanks for listening.
Thanks.